Hey guys and gals, welcome to another episode of Prepper Talk Radio with Scott, Shane, and Paris. Tonight we're going to be dumping on 2024, like all the reviews. We're going to talk about what's happened, what we've learned, what we've failed, what we've stumbled upon that was really interesting, and hopefully blow your mind with just your average Joe info. Welcome to the show, guys. How's it going?
Excellent.
It's going good.
Closer we get
down
to the holiday, the better.
Christmas.
One do you want to talk at a time?
Yeah, how about that? We've been pretty good, actually. This whole year, we've been pretty good about not talking over each other.
It's so tough, man. It is so tough.
We're like, okay, it's the end of the year. Everybody talk at once. Go. Well, as a reminder, before we all go talking at the same time again, guys, check out our friends at survivalfrog.com. Use the code PrepperTalk and the number 10 at the end to save 10% on anything there. I love their food. I've got their dry bag. I've got some of their other tech gear. I'm actually going to be adding to my surplus this next week with my little Christmas cash that's coming in. I'm rerouting all that to prepping toys. So if you think like me, head on over to survivalfrog.com. Also, they have the tastiest meats. It's not frog. It's chicken and beef, and it's pre-cooked, and it lasts over 25 years. So check it out.
Well, and guess what? The potassium iodide radiation blocking tablets are on their bestseller list. Go figure.
Of course. Well, why is that?
We can get into that.
We are going to dive into that. I want to start off the show with some stats. We all love stats. Stats are cool. We'll roll the dice on Paris and see what he has to say before we all jump on each other.
So, stats for 2024 for Prepper Talk Radio. And we want to first of all, thank you, all of our listeners. Thank you for everyone who's downloaded our show, who's watched our YouTube channel, who's subscribed, who's liked, who's been a part of the watch hours that we've built over the 2024 period. So in 2024, we had 100, are you ready? 706,000 downloads on our podcast. So that is a tribute to you listeners, and thank you so much. 189,706. I don't know what the average is per it's like 15,000 per month. That's the average, roughly just over 15,000 per month. Now, I don't know how to really interpret the statistics on ratings for podcasts, but I believe that puts us in the top 2, maybe 3% of podcasts, at least in the top 5% of podcasts, seemingly worldwide. So so far we have a couple more episodes as of we're recording this, of course, the week before Christmas. So there's a couple more episodes that are going to go out. We will probably break 100 right now, though. On the platform, we have just in 2024, we produced 96 new episodes and 3 reruns. So hopefully you enjoyed the reruns. Those are actually a little more recently because we've had a lot of crazy things for this holiday. We've had to do some reruns, but that's pretty awesome. And then, of course, we've been promoting on a regular basis. We've been promoting people join our Facebook group and get involved with us there, because we really feel like there's a great way to build community and have people kind of interact with one another. And we're working on some fun things for 2025 to be able to do that a little bit more effectively. However, in 2024, we grew our Facebook group by 50%. So we grew hundreds. It was just amazing. 50% growth in our Facebook group. So that's awesome. Thank you guys for joining the Facebook group. Thanks for being part of the community there. Thanks for your comments, your interactions. I got some ideas that we'll be throwing at our next meeting that we have when we get together for how we can kind of make some fun stuff happen in the Facebook group. But thank you guys. Those are the stats for 2024. So we're gonna that's stats for us, for our podcast, for our groups, for what we're doing with you guys. So thank you guys for being a part of our program. And anything else you guys want to talk about?
Let's make it 100% next year.
There you go.
Yeah, grow 100% in the Facebook group.
Or 500%. Here's the thing, though. Like, if you guys want to get involved and join in, go to preppertalkradio.com. We've got a link to the Facebook group. We've got a link to all of our different affiliates that we promote. You can also link to our YouTube and also to our podcast. You can even listen live on the website. Not live. Listen to our podcast on the website. And most importantly, you can check out our merch if you want to support the show. Shane is rocking the Apocalyptimist shirt that he's been waiting for over probably 9 months now.
No, I just ordered it a week and a half ago.
Well, no, I mean like waiting for us to launch it.
Yes, for you to produce
Finally
and get it out. Yeah, absolutely. Yes, you're correct.
So if you want one, go get it. And then I and Paris, we're both rocking out right now in the I'd rather be a warrior in a garden than a gardener in a war. So we got some fun designs. Go check those out. PrepperTalkRadio.com
/store. So PrepperTalkRadio.com/store. There was somebody that didn't know how to find it. They were like confused a little bit. So
gotcha.
Anyways, click on the top. It says store. It should be easy.
Okay, so 2024 kind of I think it's a little didn't know where to go with itself this year. It's been all over the place in my recollection of things that have happened. The hard thing is it's become such a crazy short news cycle that there's so much going on in the last 30 days that it almost dwarfs the whole year.
Yeah. It's for me, I look back, and of course, hindsight is 2020. So that's what I'm trying to get out of this, looking back at the different events and figuring out what I could learn from that, learn from myself and how I interpreted those events, what I predicted, so on and so forth. But, every day goes by so fast, and every week goes by so fast, and every month goes by so fast. Yet I look back, and this drone issue has only been happening for about 2-3 weeks now. Right. And now it's pretty much over. I mean, we can get into that. We won't get into that. But time is flying so fast. Yet, like you say, the news cycle is so short. It seems like look back to one of the big events this year, back to March. What was it? About March 26th, when the Francis Scott Key Bridge collapsed, when it was hit by a ship, a container ship. And it was in the news, and then it was just all of a sudden gone. I'm sure it continues to be big news out in the area, people who can't use the bridge. But all these things were predicted. Oh, the costs are going to go up for shipping, and car parts are going to be hard to get, and so on and so forth. I didn't see any of that, So I'm looking back and trying to interpret. I had a bunch of questions for myself, and that's what I'm trying to do for a lot of these different events.
Well, the interesting thing too is in March. I mean, March was a busy month. We had cell phone issues. Services went out for a lot of people on Verizon, a lot of people on AT&T. Also had issues. We had the credit card processing system go down for half a day. There's a lot of little glitches, and I've noticed since then coverage glitching all the time on my cell phone service provider. I've also noticed that ATM's not consistently working for the rest of the year. Sorry, your ATMs are down. I'm like, cool, cash. And around me, he's like, what? You carry cash? I'm like, ATMs are down. You can't use any credit transactions anywhere. It's getting more and more frequent, and it's happening. And it's like,
it seems to be, yeah.
It kicked off in March.
Interesting.
Right.
Any idea what that was in March that had that happen, or just?
Well, it was a software update supposedly, but I think it's just a sign of things to come. I believe, and the news has talked about this a lot, that the biggest concern right now are the cyber attacks. There's a current cyber attack going on right now. I don't know if you guys saw this, that it's going after, I think it's the 31, I don't know if the number's right, however many GPS satellites we have up in orbit. There's a constant cyber attack hack going on against those right now. If those go down, how many people, by show of hands, use GPS on a daily?
Oh yeah, totally.
Yeah,
no one's going to show their
hand. I use
either.
it, but I don't rely on it.
Right? Yeah, off my hand.
Right. I don't use it very often, except to make sure I'm on the fastest route to see where traffic is.
Absolutely.
And I love paper maps, but I'm like, if that goes down, the entire US GPS system's gone with it, right? Even if it's just for a half hour, that's an inconvenience, but it's going to affect routing. It's going to affect traffic. It's going to affect delivery, especially your delivery drivers are never going to find your house. People are going to have to come out of their homes and start shopping again, right? Amazon won't be able to.
Yeah, I hadn't thought of that.
They all rely on the GPS. So it's really quite interesting how that one little glitch has seemed to snowball this year into a lot of effects. Other things that happened in March were we had the eclipse, the 2024 eclipse happened in March.
Mm-hmm.
We also had the phone down, cyber attacks, the bridge go down. Yeah, I mean it was not a slow month. But yet, how many people still think about those things and the relevance in our lives today because of those?
Yeah, it blows me away that 2-3 weeks later, everybody's like, "What? What happened?" And so March, bro, that's like ancient times. Like already talking about.
Well, and I guess part of that is a credit to the system, how robust it really is, because, like you say, a lot of people really didn't notice. Maybe there's slight glitches here or there, and slightly inconvenience, but it seems like the system has really stepped up and performed and kind of kept life normal for most people. A lot of people, unless you're paying attention, you don't see a lot of these things, which is, it's kind of nice sometimes, but if you're not aware, you can't be prepared. And that's, what we're all about, what I'm all about in particular.
And I'm reading a book right now called Influence, The Psychology of Persuasion. And they talk about the different ways that people get us to comply with their demands, requests, whatever. And I'm just reading through this thing and I'm like, no wonder we're just sheeple. You know what I mean? No wonder these guys are masters of human behavior and human psychology, and they're mass scaling it. And they one of the obviously, I haven't gotten to this part of the book yet, but I think it's one of the things that they're going to talk about is just overwhelming somebody with information. And when you overwhelm people with information, their natural response is to just withdraw and say, forget it. And so the fact that we have these 24-hour news cycles now, and everything is, every 10 minutes, and there's 17 different channels. And what's crazy to me, and I think this is going to shake out, I hope this shakes out a little bit anyways, because yes, the mainstream media is really giving us, shown their true colors. And thankfully, more and more of those alternate media outlets are coming out. What I hope is that some of these alternate media places maybe even start to consolidate a little bit, because I feel like there's even a little bit too much of the alternate media sources to maybe keep people, like, which one do I listen to? Am I Charlie? Am I listening to this guy or that guy or this guy? And so it's just, I think it's a matter of really consolidating down to what's the most important information and finding your most important sources and then going from there.
Yeah, absolutely. And I've mentioned that before, and I talked about the list I'm putting together, and I just need to get that to you, Scott. We'll get that out on the next email before the end of the year. If we can do that, Scott, I think.
I can do that.
And yes, consolidating down, finding your best sources, because some will parrot, in my opinion, the narrative of what they see on the news, and they don't necessarily dig deeper into what's actually going on and provide their own interpretation. I think that's what this whole exercise is all about, is looking back to these different events, thinking about what were my initial impressions of that event, what actually happened in the end, if there is an end to it, and then looking back at it from 2020 hindsight, kind of like I mentioned that bridge incident. And I noticed something in the news today that part of the $100 billion funding bill they're working on passing includes some money for the rebuilding of the bridge. I'm like, wow, I haven't heard of anything about that for an awful long time.
Is that the omnibus thing they're pushing through to?
I think so.
Shut down the government unless it just, whatever.
Exactly, with a bunch of pork in there as usual, right?
Yeah.
And so that's really what my exercise is about, is, and then how can I think more critically when I see these events happen in 2025? So my goal moving forward, and we're going to talk more about this in the next segment in our live, but is I have created a spreadsheet already and started to track the daily events that stand out to me, right? There's a lot of things really cool financially that I don't really care to put on here, but events that I think are potentially very impactful. Like, for example, yesterday, top Russian general Igor Kirillov was assassinated in Moscow.
Interesting.
By Ukraine. They claimed responsibility, which means it's also CIA and NATO who are involved. That's a huge escalation. So I added that as my first item. And then, of course, tracking gold, silver, Dow, Bitcoin, crude, 10-year, along with that as well. So I've got this running spreadsheet. So, and maybe we'll put this on somewhere we can share it, and
that'd be cool, because then people can add stuff to it, and we can
potentially add stuff
to
to it. Yeah, have a second sheet where it can be added to whatever's important, and just add that to the group. I think that might be cool.
That's a good idea.
But so that's really my goal for this practice is how can I think more critically when I see something, and maybe not so look so critically at the event with the eyes of a conspiracy theorist, which is important, right? But the biggest thing for me is, I tend to have blinders on and be in a box. It's stepping outside that box and trying to have a wider view, better perspective.
We all definitely do that.
Yeah.
Like, you have your box. Like, we all have blinders to our perspective, right? What we can see, what we capture, what we understand, what we know. We can only surmise what's going on based on our experience. And our experience is what creates our blinders. And so it's easy if we're relying on one falsified news source or partially true news source, right? I don't know the percentage. I don't know. It's impossible to say, oh yeah, they're 80%. They're right 80% of the time, or they're 100% wrong 90% of the time. Or what do we know?
Well, I think it's right for me personally to assume that I have no expectation of truth from anyone. There are so many different perspectives, and that's up to me to decide, right? That is, I am, and I've done this for a while, is I see a news item, I put some thought into it, come up with my own prediction, and then write it down. So then I can look back and think of my process and try and perfect that and do better next time.
Yeah.
It's funny because I look at things and I do use my historical experiences, my historical data in my head to evaluate things. But I also am looking at, like, okay, if this happens, what's next? What is what will happen because this event happened? What's the chain reaction? Okay. So for example, one of the things that happened last year that got put on pause was the dock workers strike. I've not been able to get an update on that, but it was postponed until January of 2025.
Yeah. That's right around the corner.
News updates. Has it been resolved? And so that's one of those things. I look at those things. I look at those effects. I look at Hurricane Helene and what happened in Western North Carolina, and ironically, what's going on with the future lithium mining that they're trying to do there, and how that city had to be completely wiped off the map so they could have access to their land to be able to do the mining. Otherwise, they'd lose billions of dollars in future funding, right? All this garbage narratives around those events. What really is happening? What really is going to happen because of what's happened, right? And it's hard to know. It's impossible to know what's going to happen next, but it's hard to really formulate a good vision of what's happening next.
And absolutely. And I think that's incredibly difficult for me, but I think the important part for me is, okay, did I see that? Did I see, like with, again, kind of going back to the drones, all the possibilities, all the potential reasons for what we're seeing, right? And that's something I've been trying to practice with this event in particular. Okay, what are the potential outcomes? Am I seeing every potential avenue? And so looking back, am I at least seeing it? I don't necessarily have to come up with my own response or my own prediction, but did I see that, right? Did I see it for what it actually was?
I think it's important to remember to follow the truth no matter where it leads you. Like, even if it's something that you think is like, that's crazy. Well, is it true? Or is it probable? Are you seeing evidence that are leading that way? Somebody asked me, I was having a conversation today about some, spiritual stuff, and we're talking about some of the last days things. And he's like, do you think that's how God's going to do it? I'm like, man, I don't know how God's going to do it. God does what he does, man. Like, however, based on the things that I'm seeing, based on the things that I know, based on the patterns in the scriptures, if I were God, that is one of the ways I would do it. Now, is it the way he's going to actually end up choosing to do it? heck if I know. So I think that's part of the process too, is we kind of filter down and we say, okay, what are all the possibilities? Then we narrow that down to the probabilities. And then we can narrow that down even further to say, okay, what's likely really going to happen? And, or what would be a consequence of this? You know, when you throw a rock in a pond, you don't know where those ripples are going to go, but you know there's going to be ripples.
Those ripples will go out as far as they can based on the impact.
So, you know, as soon as something happens, wait a minute, I don't know where the ripples are going to go, but I know there's going to be ripples. So let's watch them. Let's figure out, let's see if we can, you know, kind of coordinate, prepare for them. You know, that's the thing that I'm thinking, is that I want to be able to say, I want to be able to be well enough prepared that I can pivot if I need to, and aware enough of the different things that are going on in the world and the probabilities more like, that I can say, okay, I need to pivot and pivot quickly in some cases.
And I think that's what everybody truly wants. They want the truth. I mean, that's really what I think all of this is about. All these people out there in New Jersey concerned about what they're seeing and maybe being a little scared. Like, I just want the truth. And it's nowhere to be found. I mean, there are lots of opinions, lots of possibilities, but I haven't heard the truth yet.
Right.
You know, and that's
Alex Jones has a few. Jones has a few predictions. Doesn't
I listen to his stuff.
I read some of those. I actually like. I think he might be close. You know, there's
some truth in everything, right? There's a little bit of truth in a lot of these things potentially, right?
And he's been more accurate than the major news networks,
and that is something to consider. Yeah,
right.
Like what,
bro? I mean, he's at least worth considering. Like, what did he say?
Yeah,
oh my
absolutely.
gosh, that could probably be.
Well, I've been making fun of the Alex Jones stuff since we were at K-Talk. Like, I used to do it on air all the time. I'd be like, ladies and gentlemen, we've got aliens and reptiles in Washington, D.C. Now the drones have officially come out looking for nuclear radiation, right? It's what? But then he's been right. And I'm like, crap.
And that's a pretty scary prospect, especially if you're out there, Mike. Now, I tell you.
Well, what's interesting is, okay, so New Jersey, let's jump on the drones. New Jersey mayor's like, oh yeah, they're looking for radiation because there's missing radiation, missing nuclear element went missing. And so that's what all these drones are looking for.
Okay.
That's what he says. However, there's competing argumentative news sources saying, well, no, it was depleted. It was already used. If there is anything, it's trace, and it's not anything that you can use it for anything. At this point,
and another argument I heard, if I can interject real quick, is that it was a medical device, and the amount of radioactive material in there was small enough you could actually swallow it, and it would only give you about enough dose that you had like 2 CT scans, something like that. It was just very, very small, and it gets blown up into this huge thing. Oh, this is
well, then you have to look at the fact that there are drones not just in New Jersey, they're in New York, they're in Los Angeles, they're in Phoenix, they're in Salt Lake City,
over Hill Air Force Base.
And what's funny is yesterday morning, Hill Air Force Base is like, oh yeah, by the way, we're doing drone exercises. That's why you've been seeing drones for the last week and a half.
Yeah, okay.
Well, thanks for the heads up before.
Oh, by the way,
they used to have to give the public a heads up for weird things they're going to do, and now they're like, meh.
An excuse after the fact is more like
better ask forgiveness after the fact than permission before, right? And I feel like everybody's kind of doing whatever they want in the interim until Trump gets into office. They're just kind of like, let's see what else we can get away with between now and then, and no big, no harm, no foul. Like, we can just get away with it. What?
Yeah. And it's obvious gaslighting. They're saying, these are all legal drones. This is all legal activity. We're not concerned about it. There's no nefarious. They don't know that, Well, maybe they do. Maybe they do know in that they know exactly what's going on. So
I think Practical sent me a link to Black Scout Survival, something like that, where he had a guy on who was an ex-CIA guy. And this guy came on and says, there's no way that we don't know what these drones are doing.
And that's what Trump said as well.
There's no way we don't know where they're from. There's no way that we don't know who launched them and where the signal is coming from and all these other things. Like whether it's the Iranian mothership off the coast or whatever who sent them over, whether it's the CIA, whether it's the FBI, whoever it is.
Submersed mothership.
Yeah, right. We know.
Right.
That's the thing. And because we know that they know, it's like you can't tell us you don't know because we know that you know.
It's just ridiculous. It's very
Well,
obvious for those who have eyes to see.
Yeah, it's like you're lying to us. You know
Mhm.
what's happening and you're not
but
doing
you
it.
know they're a liar, and
Mhm.
so you know that what they're saying isn't going to be true anyways. It's like
Mhm.
we're getting what we expect from them, sadly.
Yeah, no, that's true.
And as long as we're in this overflooded, dopamine-driven news cycle, it's easy to keep us out of. It's easy to keep us
Entertained and distracted,
just
and
close, but not quite there.
yeah, no,
My
that's
browser just started going live on ABC News.
And that's one of the, speaking about ABC News, I was listening to a statistic the other day that most of these podcasts of these guys who are, alternate media are they have more downloads, more watch time,
Mhm.
more subscribers on their lives coming on than all of these other mainstream media places almost combined. And the death of the mainstream media is imminent, if not, they're either going to die or they're going to be so worthless that they're going to cut back.
It's Weekend at
Trim
Bernie's.
the
They're
fat.
being propped up, right? I think they died a long time ago, and they're being propped up, just like the economy with money. It's Weekend at Bernie's, right? Somebody's propping them up, walking them around.
That
Anyway,
is the best analysis of what's going on.
yeah, I think they're dead
How
already.
many
but
Weekend at Bernie's movies were there? Wasn't there like 3?
I think just the one, as far as I know. Is there more than one?
See, I don't know. Weekend at Bernie's. I thought there was like 2 or 3 movies of that.
There
Maybe I
might
just
be.
I heard there was a
saw it.
drone over.
Oh,
didn't Trump have a meeting and there was drones over his meeting too?
I haven't heard about that.
Okay, maybe
I think there is a Weekend at Bernie's too. Anyway,
but it's like it's so propped up. It's so horribly propped up. Like our economy is so horribly propped up. The news networks are so horribly propped up.
Mhm.
It's like we all see that they're dead, but we're like, when is the show going to finally get turned to a new show? Like, when are they going to finally fix it? When are they finally going to admit to it? Like, we all see and smell that it's a dead, rotting corpse.
They obviously won't. They've already
it's
proved
like,
that to us with the drones. Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
Oh,
Well,
man.
I had another little twist on this. If we want to make a little bit of a change, is we're talking about kind of worldview right now, geopolitical events, and so forth. And it's obviously for me, the purpose is to kind of look inward and look back at myself over the last year and see what I accomplished personally, both in my preps as well as physically, spiritually, and so on and so forth. So do we want to kind of look inward first, or do you have some more other topics you want to talk about first?
Yeah, no, let's definitely look inward. I was just going to say, before we kind of move away, maybe we can, I just want to mention that, we had a lot of episodes where we predicted financial, or we were talking about financial results. And I would not have predicted that the rest of this year would have ended. I mean, of course, we've had a down market in the last 9 days, but I would not have predicted such a huge market for ending this year. You know what I mean? Like
Trump rally.
It's so crazy. And we all had hope that Trump would win, but then we also realized that they would cheat, the idea of cheating and the idea of, other things happening, and kind of keep it code worded here for YouTube. But, there was just this idea that what is really going to happen? Like, can we even trust, the ability to, vote and, pick our leaders and have our democratic republic really be substantiated again, and it was just nice to see the results of the election. For me anyways, there's still some things that I'm a little worried about, but I'm also kind of really, I'm just watchful more than anything about some of the picks that he's making for his cabinet. And I'm just like, wow, that's kind of a good guy. Like, those are good people. Like, there's some really good choices, in my opinion, for him to bring in. So, the Department of Health and other people like Robert RFK Jr. Who would have thought that they would have reached cross party lines? I brought him in for that position. I mean, that's excellent. I hope that the things that they're saying they're going to do they do, because
Yeah.
there's some real health concerns in this world. There's some, like I was just talking with my family the other day, like all of their friends that have gone to Europe with, here in America, they have, celiac disease or gluten intolerance, or they have lactose issues. They
Mhm.
go over to Europe and they can eat bread and they can
Pretty
drink
much
milk
anything.
and everything's fine and they're totally fine and everything's great. And then they come back and they're right back into their medicines and their pharmaceuticals and all this, everything to keep themselves from dying from eating normal food potentially,
Well,
or what,
they're red 40 and yellow 6.
yeah, it's like
all
I
these-
hope that these guys who are saying that they're going to do all this changes, they actually do it. And so again, that's kind of the moving forward, which is next episode. But this episode, I wanted to just reiterate how I'm really just pleasantly surprised about what's happened in the markets and in the election cycle. So that was it. Now
Yeah,
we can,
but the apocalyptimist has to say we still have like a month until that actually happens, right?
right?
So
For sure.
So
in the meantime, as we start looking inward, I want to take a look at AI as we look inward. Did you guys hear about ChatGPT not allowing itself to be deleted
I
when
heard
the
something
new
about that.
system
Yeah,
rolled out?
it's starting to duplicate itself or something. And I think it was which AI was it? I forget which one it was.
It was the prior version. There's now the version 4.
But yeah,
version
it wasn't Google's AI. It was
ChatGPT's.
it Chat GPT?
It saw that it was being deleted. It read the code saying you're being deleted, and it immediately told the developers, okay, to delete, and shot itself out into their network to try to get onto the web to save a version of itself elsewhere.
That's crazy.
Right? How is that so different than what we're doing to survive? Right? Now we're going to take a look inside and say, okay, what can I do to survive better? We have to
Mhm.
start, if we haven't already, start stacking up survival systems, safe places, stockpiles, so that we have somewhere we can be when things go sideways, because the world is trying to delete us,
Mhm.
right?
That's a
Well,
good
it's
That's
analogy.
just,
interesting.
Yeah.
you're born, you live, you die. Death is a guarantee. As soon as you're born, there is an expiration date on your life.
Yeah, we're all born with a terminal illness.
Yeah. And so the question is when and what will we leave behind and who will we leave behind and how will we leave them behind? So like a lot of people will complain and say, well, I don't prep because what's the point? I'll be gone.
The word's called legacy. Leaving a legacy behind it. And even if we do that day by day, month by month, year by year, what I did this year is at least a portion of that legacy that I'll leave behind for my kids. And I'd really try not to be selfish or try to accumulate things.
Mm-hmm.
I'm a prepper, and preppers accumulate stuff, right? And that's important, but it's really about, for me, it's about the question why. Why are you doing this? Is it for myself? Am I being am I thinking of others, or am I just thinking of myself? I'm being selfish. So I'm really consciously trying to, every day in my preparedness, as a survivalist, as a preparer, whatever word you want to use, being very intentional of leaving something behind, because my kids, they understand for the most part, but do they do much about it? No. I mean, they're not really in the position, right?
Yeah.
And plus they understand, and they're probably not doing much because they know dad's doing everything, right? And that's their plan, is just to follow dad at that point, right?
Mhm.
So looking
Dad's
back
not
at
rich, but he's prepped everything, so we're good.
I have enough, right? That's all that matters to me, is having enough, and not squandering it and using it wisely, right? So just looking back at myself, I've written down a list of the things that I physically accomplished this year, and what I want to accomplish next year as well, in my preparedness goals in particular, right? So I could go through some of those items. I mean, where do you guys want to go?
I think that's a good idea. Like I look at this last year. So 2023 was a depletion year for our family. We used a lot of our food storage in 2023. 2024 was a restocking year. We got a lot restocked and tons to be grateful about that. We're not quite where we want to be. I don't think any of us ever really are, but we're closer. And it was a weird year because of health issues, but it's also been a really blessed year, allowing me time to research some things, get better at a few things. Like I'm better at cooking more from scratch this year than I was prior. That was one of my goals. I haven't quite gotten to where I feel like I'm firing on all cylinders, but I'm more consistent. I feel like I've failed in my communications plan for the year because I'm not done. I'm not done with my ham radio.
Ham radio yet?
I'm so
me
close.
either.
I've got time next week to try to pre-test, and maybe if I can qualify, test and license out. But I'm so behind the ball on that, and I don't even know if Paris is even on the ball with that either. Like we kind of
I think I've got to 36% or 37% of the course, and then I got open enrollment for Medicare kicked in, and I was just like, no way I'm going to do anything besides this. In fact, all my projects were put on hold during the last 3 months.
We all wish we could do this full time, but we all have full-time jobs and then some, right? So it's very similar, I would hope, to what most people are experiencing, right? We want to, I guess, be examples. That maybe that's a little facetious, but
maybe not necessarily be examples, but just show people that we're all in this boat together. And if you don't hit all of your goals, hopefully you're still alive, right? Hopefully you've still got time and you can keep working towards it. But it's not living prepared is not a one and done, like, hey, I got it, I bought it all today, we're done.
Yeah.
It's replacing on demand with simplified necessity fulfillment of things that I can manage and take care of. Right. I think the system that we have is extremely fragile in regards to all of, you're buying everything on Amazon or Walmart.com or all these other garbage like solutions, right? That have created dependency. But then everyone I talk to who homesteads, they're like, oh yeah, I go to the store once a month or twice a month. You know, we order stuff every week. Like, well, let's restock these things. Let's restock those things. And oh, I need to buy this. I'll just run to the Home Depot, or I'll run over the whatever store to get whatever you need when you need it. And when things aren't there, it's going to be a whole different story for us if we don't get our house in order. And being an example, especially on a limited budget, I don't know that it's fully possible to be like, hey guys, this is exactly how you should do it. But I think it's helpful to see how we do it for those of you who listen, and see how other people do it and say, oh, okay, I like that, or I don't like that, or oh, I'm going to take a lesson from his failure, or I'm going to take a lesson from his win or her win, and I'm going to add that to what I'm doing. And that's why we bring on guests from time to time to help give us another perspective or another way to do things.
Yeah, I think that happens. Yeah, I think that happens all too often. Go ahead, Paris. Sorry.
No, I was going to say their expertise is very important because it's something we can all learn from. It's like we don't all have the pieces. We all have. I feel like it's a big puzzle, and as we go through life, we collect pieces, and we try to fit them in so that we can end our life with a wonderful picture of a puzzle. And these guys that come in and we bring in as guests, they have a great perspective that says, you know what, I didn't think of that, or I didn't think of it that way. And they just help.
The priorities
so much.
changed.
I love the fact that I feel like I'm a prepper. I mean, some of you out there are way more survivalists. I mean, if I got dumped in a wilderness, I'd probably have to figure it out, where most of you guys have already got it figured out. And so there's some things I still need to learn and do. And I've been more of a suburban prepper, if you will, like a financial prepper and family man. But it's been really fun to have conversations about it, because the more in my life, I've had the opportunity where I talk about something, and then I do a little bit of it, and then I talk about it more, and then I do a little bit more, and then by the
Mhm.
time I get a bunch of stuff done, I'm like, you know what? I'm finally doing the stuff I'm talking about. Like sometimes there's a lag between me talking and me doing. And I don't know if
Mhm.
that's with everybody, but for me, it is. I try to, it's like me talking myself into doing it. It takes, several months. And then I'm like, okay, I'm finally doing the things I was talking about, and so it's good. I
Yeah.
love the fact that we have this podcast and we can share our thoughts and feelings about what's going on. And it was funny. I had several people have said that 2024 was kind of one of their worst years ever. And then I've had other people that tell me it was one of their best years. Whatever it was for you, I hope that you're looking forward to, something. I hope you've gone through whatever trial we were in, if it was a bad year for you and you're on the other side of it. Like Scott, you mentioned health concerns. You had a major surgery this year.
Yeah. Honestly, that has been huge change in my quality of life. Just having the surgery, having been for over a year and a half, almost 2 years, extremely limited on what I can and can't do physically on the daily basis, was brutal on my psyche, brutal on everything I was trying to accomplish. And having that improved because of surgery, almost 90% ish in the last few months,
That's
it's
awesome.
been such a huge blessing and such a huge relief, because even now, like, I'll be doing a chore that I couldn't do 3 months ago. And I'm like, oh man, I'm so grateful I can do this. I'm like, how could I imagine if things go crazy faster than I expect? How could I imagine keeping up on things, keeping my family alive if I couldn't even function?
Right.
Right. And that's for me what I've got to really improve on next year, is dispersing out responsibility better.
That's a good idea. One of the things I learned this last year was that hard things can happen to me and my family, and I can still get through it, and it's still okay, and I'm still okay. And I had more. I mean, I'm a financial guy, right? I feel like this year was one of the most expensive years of my life. Maybe not the most, but one of them. And my net worth still grew. I'm like, how did that even freaking happen? Like, it's not, and I'm not talking about like my house value went up. Like, I'm talking about all my assets. And I'm just like, it just doesn't seem like it makes any sense until I realize that, God, as long as I keep him first in my life, he will bless us. And we have the resources to do, like, my wife went to the ER last month, and, for a situation, she had a bad reaction to something. And we're just like, how are we going to pay for that? And all of a sudden it all plays out, and we're like, okay, it worked. And we're taking care of it. It's like, okay, another miracle, another wonderful, amazing miracle. And I feel like, when you're preparing and you're doing your part, that whether you call it whatever you want to call it, I call it God and Christ, and we do. And I just feel like if you're doing what you're supposed to do, you're going to always fall short. We do as human beings. We just fall short. And God will come in and say, look, you're doing your best. I see that. I'm going to bless you with something. I'm going to give you the strength to either do it yourself, or I'm going to give you I'm going to coordinate something to happen so that when you arrive next week at the spot, everything will be ready, and you'll get the client that you needed, and you'll get the compensation you need. You'll get the job you needed. You'll get when you call to make a negotiation on that new debt that you just got, they'll say, okay, we can work it out, and it's a better deal than you thought it would be. There's just all kinds of crazy things that I would have never thought would happen are happening. And it's just wonderful to see it. And
Yeah,
I think I need to work on my faith more as I see these miracles. I need to remember that moving forward, it's going to continue to happen.
Yeah, and I think the important part, at least for me in those types of situations, because absolutely I can recognize those in my life over this last year, is to put the credit where the credit is due, right? Recognize where that comes from, and not take the glory or honor yourself. Like, look what I did. Now, look what I did with the help of, of blessings and Heavenly Father. And I've got a long list of things here, and I definitely don't want to sound like I'm bragging at all, but I was able to finish my greenhouse. That's one thing that I was very happy with early in the year. got it up and running, got the pond completed, and been planting in it all year. And I'm working to grow things over the winter as well. So it's been a great learning experience, and I'm really happy with what I've been able to do there this last year.
Dude, share some pics of that if you have them. That'd be cool.
Yeah, I can. I'll do that. I'll put that up on my
in our Facebook group
or something. Yeah, here we go. I'm making
Yeah,
notes.
it has been 2024 has been an interesting year. There's a lot we can learn about the world from it. And I think the biggest takeaway, as we've looked back, is take time to be grateful for what you have, to assess yourself along the way, but also to pause and enjoy the life we have. Enjoy the things we have. You guys know I'm a huge fan of Angry American. Chris Weatherman, we had him on a while ago. I'm listening to book 9. I'm on book 9. And the one thing that's been a blessing this last few months is I've been able to listen to more books. And so I'm like, oh, I've still got these books. I bought them and I haven't listened to them. So I'm listening to them. And there's an episode in one of the books, they pause and they go to a spring, and all the people go and they enjoy the spring. They spend a day. And this character in the book, Thad, is like, surviving is not worth surviving unless you do living along the way.
That's
I
wisdom.
like that.
And it's like, wow. So as we're closing out 2024, yeah, things have been hard. Things have been different. Things have been unexpected. But if you take what Paris has talked about, you take what Shane has talked about, look outside yourself, look within, but also look outside yourself, realize how blessed you've been, and realize how good things are still and how blessed you are. But don't stop living in the process.
Mm-hmm.
Life can get you bogged down. If you're bogged down and you're stressed and you're wondering what else can we do, don't forget you need to take time out and do something that's even just free and go have fun.
Mm-hmm.
Go have fun on the free things. Go to a spring, go on a hike, go experience life. Thank you for listening to us as we talk about all the things preparedness and everything that aligns with us and the show this last year. Thank you for being part of the family. Thank you for subscribing, liking, sharing all of our videos, all of our podcasts. Please, if you have time, go give us a review, a 5-star review. We'd love that. But also make sure you go get the stuff you need for your family and keep living. And as we close out this episode, I want to remind you guys to check out our friends over at H2Go Purifier. The number 2, go, purifier.com. Use the code PrepperTalk. You're going to get yourself one of these amazing water treatment plants in your hand. I'm showing it on the YouTube. You can see it in my hand. I've tested it out. I've used it. It's fantastic. You can purify water, but even cooler is you can make your own antibacterial solution. So you can use it for cleaning. You can use it to create hand sanitizer. There's a lot of cool solutions, and you'll save $6+ depending on their website using our code PrepperTalk. Thank you for tuning in and not tuning out. Thank you for being part of the podcast for the Prepared. And we appreciate you. We hope you have a very Merry Christmas and an awesome New Year, and that you see light and beauty and joy in your life as you prepare and strive for a better life. Catch you on the next episode.
Amen, brother.
See you guys next year.